We're talking now about the planned Revolution Now protest, and also the fact that the federal government says that they have been able to leave 5 million Nigerians out of poverty. This was something made known by the president through the secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, while addressing a particular conference. They said they were able to lift up 5 million Nigerians out of poverty through the social intervention program, I should say. To discuss this morning, we have with us Mr. Ni Akinshiju, who is the chairman, Buhari Media Organization. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you so much.
We also have with us Eunice Atanko, who is the 2019 NCP presidential candidate. You're also welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning to you. You have seen this report. First and foremost, you watched developments happen over the weekend. I'm sure it started on social media, the revolution, #RevolutionNow, asking for good governance, asking that the economy work in favor of all Nigerians, you know, and the likes. I mean, they asked for a number of things. It started on social media, and they eventually decided to take it out to the streets. But we saw that that was cut short. The authorities were not happy about it and decided that, you know, it was treasonable, what it was that this group of young people were planning. And then in the same breath, we get, as if in some response to you know, the demands of that particular process, the federal government say that they have been able to lift 5 million people out of extreme, I think I need to qualify that, extreme poverty. What are your thoughts on what you have seen so far?
Interestingly, Nigerians can be ridiculously patient at times. Ridiculously in a way that over the years, the recurring issues has always been employment, power, health, security. This has been the problem of Nigeria over successive government. Not this particular government, the previous one, those and the... So you cannot justify all of the things that are happening that you can now say that now today they are talking about lifting Nigerian youth out of poverty level 5 million. That is insultive. You see, when you say you lift people out of poverty level, it's not something that can be said by words. It has to be seen, it has to be felt. It has to be exemplary. People need to be, the people that will say it, because they are the ones feeling it. As of today, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, it's 23%. It's high, that's 2 digits. These are things that in other countries, you will have just 1 digit increase will have removed that particular government in power. But here we are grappling with the issue of hunger. I watched a cartoon yesterday. It's about salad period, and the old woman and the man managed to buy a ram. Now they have to tie it down on their side of their bed because they're scared somebody may come in and steal the ram. As of today, people are stealing from churches. As of today, people are stealing from mosques. And then you are saying that you have removed people from extreme poverty. That is not true.
Let me quickly ask Mr. Akinshiju how he intends to respond to this. Quite a number of people think that right now the society is so, I don't know, I don't want to use the word debased, but I'm looking for another word, and I can't seem to find any. In terms of morals, in terms of the guiding principles, in terms of security, people are wondering, what is going on?
Thank you. First, let me respond to the thought on stealing in churches and mosques. The truth is that whoever wants to steal will steal. It's not about your material status. You have millionaires stealing, you know, and you have very poor people that can't even have other food. Because of the moral standing of such a person, would not steal. Well, that's not the question. The question is, what is the status of poverty in Nigeria? Unfortunately, Nigeria had always been a poverty endemic country, you know, so to speak. The World Bank is responsible for establishing what you call international poverty line or international poverty rate, and also responsible for poverty head count in different jurisdictions. By 2012, Nigeria had 120 million poor people, living in extreme poverty. And what was the international poverty line then? It was at $1. So it had 120 million Nigerians living under $1 a day. By 2015, that was increased. That is, the poverty line was increased from $1 to $1.90. It would seem that whatever this government is doing must have been right, because if at $1 you had 120 million people, living in extreme poverty, and at $1.90, the last figure we have is that about 86.9 Nigerians are living under 1.90 cents. It means the threshold, has reduced. Because if it was 1.90 at 2012, it will mean that virtually 90% of Nigerians, will be living under poverty. Now, to the extent that the president had come out to say that 5 million people had been lifted out of extreme poverty, the president related directly to the program, the social intervention program, social investment program that had been executed. And anybody anywhere that had been in this country since 2016 would attest to the efficacy, to the impact of this, because the truth is we are challenged by legacy. Nigeria has a huge population of poor people, and that would naturally affect even the resources available in terms of how it gets to who and for what purpose.
Well, Mr. Akinshiju, without prejudice to the statistics and the source of the data of the federal government, you do acknowledge that 5 million in the midst of the number of people,
of course,
it seems to be a drop. So much so that criticism did not come from only ordinary Nigerians. It also came from within the villa itself. The president's wife wondering just how monies meant for social investment programs were distributed, because she was saying that it didn't get to our own local government. So there's still people who are wondering. If people are asking these questions, don't you think that they have a point?
Yeah, they have a point. And of course, the first thing is to get the policy right. Policy execution, policy implementation would, of course, have hiccups here and there. So when you have observation as made by the wife of the president, the important thing is to attend to it. And the last I had was the management, of the social intervention program, the social investment program, attending to that. But that does not take away, does not detract from the impact of the program. 5 million is low, but again, we are also challenged by resources. These 5 million have been affected by an amount less than 350 billion naira. The whole sum that had been budgeted and released, for the implementation of the social intervention program is less than 370 billion naira.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Yunusa right now. Do you buy his argument, the fact that indeed we have a huge number of poor people, but that incrementally something seems to be done or something is going on to leave people out of extreme poverty, but the result is scarce? What is your view on that?
And obviously, I'm not satisfied with probably the level of achievement that was said to have been made. We have 8 years, or let's say 4 years affirmative from a government that was able to identify right from the beginning that there is a high level of unemployment rate in Nigeria. There were promises being made. It was in this country where we are that in 2010, we led a movement called Save Nigeria. I was the field marshal. We went onto the streets demanding for good governance. In fact, at that point in time, we had a problem about the president who was sick, and then we needed to make sure that the Constitution of the Federal Republic was followed into two, so that we will not have a kind of lacuna in governance. We were successful because we were not happy with the situation. We went ahead again. In 2012, there was an Occupy Nigeria protest that was being made, interestingly, in this country. At that point in time, we were buying a bag of rice at 8,000 naira. And then the fuel price was just 87 naira. And then the dollar to naira was 167. And then there was a little bit of stability, but yet Nigerians were not happy. Here we are today. That particular amount has doubled. The prices of commodity, even the bag of rice, is close to about 18,000 naira. Yet Nigerians have been patient, and they did not raise up any issues as regard to it. Today, we are talking about 4 more good years that nothing on ground has exemplified that this government or any other government that is planning to come has put a template of a roadmap of greatness. Why won't people be calling for revolution? Even though we will not support the idea of violent revolution, but we will support a revolution by voting, because it is the right time, because at that point in time, it is this particular action that lead to spontaneous revolution that the country may not find it easy. As of today, holding Sowore and keeping him in prison is that they are making him more popular and agitating the people. I think they should quickly release him and make it and deal with the issues. The issue is not about calling for revolution. The issue is about the level of poverty that is going on in this country.
Yeah, but
the level of insecurity.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt Mr. Danko. You have made the point that these were the circumstances in 2012. The circumstances which also brought about the Save Nigeria group were also very different. Interestingly, they have changed. They seem to be getting worse as a result of many things. But Nigerians seem to be patient. Do you think that that's because, I mean, not only have they been patient, they only recently went to the ballot and the results brought back President Muhammadu Buhari. Do you think that it's because they are seeing any difference? Maybe indeed they can see that something is going in the direction that they ought to be going. It might be slow, but perhaps it's making some progress.
Obviously, there has not been any difference. The only thing is that they are hopeful. They are hopeful that things will change. And then the level of, at the rate in which things are being done is so slow to an appalling level. They want to see an action. They are still having that particular hope that these things can change, but they are not changing.
Let's talk
and then we have a time limit.
Let us talk about the perceived sluggishness of this administration. It's taken, in the first term, it took 6 months for the president to appoint ministers. Now it's taken close to another, what month are we now? We're in August. And yet, even though the ministers have been screened, they're yet to be assigned portfolios. How long does it really take to have a cabinet in place after an election?
Well, every individual has a style. This is the style of the president. I don't consider it as being slow.
Is this style working for us? Is this style working for a country that seems to be in a hurry?
Yeah, it is. I like to reference figures. The figures I gave you the other time are World Bank figures, and you can Google them. I will give you another figure. Our infrastructural value of our infrastructure as at 2015 was $15.1 billion. Today, it's 52 point something billion dollars. That was made available at the summit of the Nigerian Society of Engineers recently in Abuja. Then, of course, we have saved from food imports alone. We have saved more than $350 million. We save more than $350 million every month. Now that tells you the change and the turn, in the way things are done. For me, it is about what the president had been able to do in the chaos of our environment, in the chaos that had been created over time. I always tell people that it is our history that is catching up with us. The Nigerian poor are becoming more confident and trusting in this government because they see a government that is bonding with them in terms of policy and interaction. In fact, today, most analysts, most financial and investment analysts would describe this government as a socialist government. because there had been an insistence, one, on removing subsidy, on increasing electricity tariff, and that for some of these analysts, that is the only way to go. But the president had insisted that he had to stay by the side of the people, because when you do this, it will increase inflation. And when inflation is increased, the rate of inflation is increased, it also affects the number of Nigerian poor. I can tell you that just by that position alone, more numbers of people have been, circled out of poverty because of pricing. Just pricing policy. Don't forget that in January 2017, inflation rate in Nigeria was as high as 18-point-something %. Today is 11.2.
While the target, I do know that it's CBN. For them, the ultimate target is, single-digit inflation, and for it to come down even more.
No.
But whatever it might be in the area of economy, I'm sure that there'll be the figures to counter that. I'm not going to go into that now. I'm going to go into the one that is now of concern to a lot of Nigerians, which is the security challenges. You can see the Global Peace Index ranks Nigeria 148 amongst 163 independent states and territories. We're not doing so well in the area of security, which is one area that is giving a lot of Nigerians cause for concern. What is your,
the basis,
take on that?
The basis of that outcome, research outcome, was the Northeast, insurgency. It is not a Nigerian-wide survey. It's principally, limited to the Northeast region. And I think so far so good. The Nigerian government had been able to contain, to a large extent, violence in the Northeast. There was a time, even in Abuja, we couldn't sleep with our eyes closed. You couldn't move around.
Indeed, but I'm sure a lot of Nigerians are still not sleeping with their eyes closed right now. A lot more Nigerians are worried about being kidnapped, just walking on the streets in front of their houses, or traveling now is an issue. People think twice before they put their cars on the road and say they're moving from state to state. It is an issue.
It is.
So while we talk about security in the northeast of the country, we do acknowledge that in some other states, bandits are now being, negotiated with. People are losing their lives to people who are invading states and taking people's lives in large numbers. What do you have to say about these other figures, which could also be contributing to the security index?
I was reacting to that because sometimes we come with figures and we need to also look at the source and origins of these figures. Thankfully, we are talking about now. These are emerging new challenges. They were not as eminent as they some 2-3 years ago. Now we are being confronted with these challenges. I agree, it's scary. But again, I can see government responding. It is what government is doing. More policemen are being recruited. And I can tell you that as of this morning, more than 200 expert policemen are being trained in China, to respond to this. At the level of superintendent of police upward, it had never been done before in this country.
Let me bring you. Let me hold you there, because when you talk about expert policemen being trained, people have talked about reforms in the Nigeria Police Service. They say it doesn't take much. When we see that it's still status quo, just changing of IGPs, all that we see, can we really say that we have done much in the area of police reforms that this country is in desperate need of?
A major argument that is prevalent now is community policing. The federal government is already talking to that. There is a policy that is now being implemented to recruit 50,000 40,000 constabularies and 10,000 new recruits into the Nigerian army. The 40,000 constabularies are to be recruited across local governments, and they are to serve as what you call latch-on resources, at the local government level. Now that's a reform, and it's a step towards community policing, institutionalizing community policing. The other aspects of reforms will also be adoption of technology. you know, because the truth of the matter is we've had a police, a Nigerian police, that has been deficient, you know, in terms of use and deployment of technology. And these are some of the things we need to be bothered about. And I think this is what the government is doing. We have had a serious deficit of ratio of policemen to the Nigerian population. If we are talking of 375,000 policemen to about 200 million people, and across close to 1 million square kilometers of real estate in terms of the Nigerian space, we know that it's deficient.
Well, so this government has had 5 years. I mean, they're in the 5th year, you know, and what we ought to be seeing is an incremental employment. I don't know that we have.
I see. I mean, the recruitments are going on.
It's currently going on. Yes, we're aware of that. But, you know, it ought to have started way before now. But let me ask Mr. Tanko here whether he is optimistic that some of the results, some of the solutions being put in place will achieve the kind of results we're looking for.
Not really. Yes, I agree to training and all, and retraining and reform. But let's look at the situation really. In the Northwest, he mentioned about the Northeast, about Boko Haram and all. But have you looked at the Northwest recently? That's the largest part of this country. We have a large population. We have about 5 states in that Northwest already under siege, one way or the other. Kano, Kaduna, Zamfara, what do you call it? Sokoto and the rest of them. And every day, almost every day in daily basis, people are being killed. In fact, just like as you mentioned, just yesterday, there was a negotiation. If people want to go to their farms, they have to be negotiating how to pay 15,000 naira to enable them go to their farm, to have to pay the bandits because they want to go to farm. Most of the companies in the Northwest are all broken down. They are not working. And then you expect people not to be involved in kidnapping, harassment, stealing, banditry, and all. So the scarce resources that you want to use in other training and all, and use it in training the people and make them productive. The issue of this particular fighting against insurgency would automatically reduce. When they train the people, they'll be more productive. All those companies will be reopened. And then when they are productive, all of the issues of stealing and banditry will definitely reduce, and even kidnapping. And that is the way in which people deal with security matter from the root. It's not by you sending people to go to China to be trained as experts. The question you want to ask is, in China, are majority of their population unemployed?
Big question. Let me quickly let you respond to one point you raised earlier, which is about the perceived intolerance of this government to protest. And the people have condemned how it has handled one of the lead organizers of the Revolution Now movement. They think that this is just high-handedness and there is no way government can be justifying this. And
I also want to chip in that over the last 2 weeks in the U.S., a highly developed economy, very productive, more than 250 people lost their lives to security. So like I said earlier, security is not, I mean, stealing is not, or criminality is not about your material status. It is not about your productivity. It's about your orientation. So coming to your question, I don't think so. I've seen a number of protests, demonstrations in this country over the last 4 or 5 years, 4+ years, that the government did not do anything about. We have seen the fuel hike demonstration led by the NLC. The NLC itself had led another demonstration against the government on minimum wage. You know, I think 3 or 4 different national spread demonstrations, protests, that the government did not do anything. You know, so pedigree and what we have witnessed before now did not support that.
Can we justify this, considering the fact that the president himself also held rallies after he lost elections in places like Canada? This is something that is well documented. And for people who do not know about that story, I think that some writers are writing on the back page. Just when Olusegun Adeniyi is one of them. He's titled Witness to a Revolution. Bring us back to the president's rally in 2003 after he lost an election, in spite of the fact that he was in court.
Sorry, your question was tolerance.
Yes, tolerance.
And I am saying that we cannot arrive at that conclusion based on what is happening to Showore. I am saying that the pedigree of the president since 2015 has shown that he has been tolerant of demonstration and protest.
We're saying, can we justify what is happening to him?
Now.
That's
So that's the question. Well, the matter is in court. The DSS arrested him, had taken him to court. The court had also, fixed today, to make a ruling on that. So I think let us wait for what the court will say, and then I will be able to take a position on that.
Okay, we have to thank both of you for coming on Sunrise today. We're totally out of time. We also have to thank our viewers for their mails. Yes, we did see some mails. I'm sure that our producers will make time for us to take some of those mails. And we also have to thank you for your contributions on Twitter as well. We have to thank our contributors here, Ni Akinshiju, the chairman, Buhari Media Organization, and Yunus Atanko, was the 2019 National Conscience Party presidential candidate. Well, that's where we leave the program this morning. Thank you, everybody. I'm Maokwe Ogunyusu.
I'm Kayode Okikiolu, wishing you the very best today.
And I am Makinde. Have a good day.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.